What?
I just realized that there was those 3 people we met yesterday. I can only remember one guy's last name, and do you know why? It's almost exactly the same as Ren Hoek.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was
Wait,
almost...
was that the assistant principal?
Yeah.
Oh, the other guy's last name was Lindsay.
Oh, I don't know how I remember
Her
that.
last name was Cook, and the nurse, I don't know what her last name is, but her name's Heather.
I understand. Well, in any case, hey, it's Friday.
Yep.
It is, in fact, Friday. Wait, where did my hat go? Oh, there it is. What? It's just the way it works. The hood and the hat don't work together.
Okay.
So, happy Friday. It's freaking cold in here, Mr. Bigglesworth.
Okay, I'll go first. I haven't worn this in a hot minute, but it's one of the 3 that I wear, which is this one.
Yeah, it's 6105 slim case. I love these. It's got a service crown for 6105 8110, which I love. The one thing about this watch, from the minute I did it, I hadn't yet invented my Ammonite lume, and I think this stuff is too gray, and I don't like the way the surface looks, but Sabrina likes it, so I've never done anything to it. She doesn't want me to touch it.
Nope.
Should I redo it or not? Well, I mean, obviously her decision matters. But
Well, what do you people think, even though it's not going to get re-lumed?
yeah, I could just, with my Ammonite lume, it would look much better. But, that's me.
I think that it goes with the age of the watch and the mock-ups and stuff.
Oh, yeah. No, I agree. And I am still wearing, I can't stop wearing my 6117 8000 Navigator, super faded dial text. I have a service dial I'm going to put in this thing. I believe. I'm thinking about it. I'm so proud of myself for the job that I did with this watch. It's accurate to a few seconds a day, maybe 5 seconds either way. It's incredibly accurate. It's just sometimes that, you get a build and you just manage to hit it just right. But it's incredible. This, by the way, is talking about my Ammonite lume. That is my Ammonite lume. This lume around the edge, these lume spots, that's original. So I didn't quite get a perfect match. The Ammonite lume usually has a little more tan in it, and this is the Diny green, sort of, because they were doing that stuff early, and this is early. Well, I think I did a pretty good match. Ammonite lume. All right, thank you, folks. So anyway, should I leave that lume at the slightly darker gray that I did it at by accident, or should I re-lumen it again with my patented pure Colorado Ammonite hand-ground lume? Because I hadn't invented it when I did that watch.
Well, you invented it now.
I did. Well, you want to do it?
Sure.
And you're sucking on a lolly.
Shut up.
Okay.
So these are from the last mail call.
Okay.
Mr. James Duffy, speaking of Enterprise, I have been binge listening to Shuttlepod Show podcast hosted by the actors who played Trip and Malcolm in the background while working. I have not watched Enterprise in its entirety yet, but I have watched the finale.
Well, the finale is like pretty much the worst possible episode to watch. You could watch...
Even I have to say that the finale was insulting.
Oh, it's beyond it was just a joke. It was just a joke. Watch Through a Mirror Darkly. It's a 2-part, and it's mirror, but it ties beautifully into the original series, specifically the episode The Tholian Web. And it's, was that the Excelsior? What was that? Why can't I remember the name of that ship? But anyway, those 2 episodes, the same thing happened with Enterprise that happened with pretty much every other Trek. The first, season and a half, they sucked. They were terrible. TNG first season is unwatchable. Unwatchable. If it wasn't for stupid 9/11,
Yes.
we would have, I don't know, I mean, but it was just, but at the same time, though, it made sense. I'm sorry, go on.
Well, I was going to say, so as I've said 1,000 million billion times, I would get depressing news on the news. I didn't want depressing things in my Star Trek.
What I loved is that it was more realistic. I liked that they had a better cast of actors. I loved that the NX-01 was much more like a submarine than anything else. I thought their uniforms, which were basically just blue one pieces like the Air Force uses today, was one of the most sensible Star Trek outfits I've ever seen. It made perfect sense. I was invested in the ship. They had all the plans ready to go. Doug Drexler had the plan ready to go because you remember the NX-01 was pretty much built on a single plane, but they had already come up with how they would have that big lower section added on like the later Enterprise ones, it being a warp power upgrade to make the ship far more capable. And Archer insisted on basically having the NX-01 be that testbed. And that's where that, the profile of the Constitution class kind of evolved from that. But it was a great show. It was a great show, and I'm always sad that it didn't get the time it could have had. It was a great show. Okay.
From RoadGent7921. Had you considered putting a VH31 into an SKX or 7548 type case? What is a VH31? Because I almost said VH1.
VH31 is a modern sort of generic Seiko movement. It's got a couple of jewels, I believe. It's the main thing that's cool about it is that it has its smooth sweeping seconds. So instead of being a quartz click, 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 Seiko wanted to get away from that, and so it has a steady hand. They're neat movements, and it's a cool trick that they did long time ago. I was thinking about we need some kind of an invention to smooth out those hands, and I actually started working and designing on something, but it was just ridiculous, and I don't think it would have worked at all. But yeah, they're fine movements. It's the steady sweep that's the big thing. The problem, well, there's a couple problems specifically with that movement. That movement is crown at 3. The other models that you're talking about have crowns at 345. So you can turn the whole movement, but like the date wheel will be completely wrong. And Seiko doesn't necessarily make something that can work to replace it. The bigger deal is actually getting that movement into that case and having it held where it is. Movements inside cases will always have a system of a movement ring type thing, which is something that houses the movement and holds it snugly inside the case. If you had the ability to somehow create a holder and 3D print it that was correct, basically creating a part out of thin air, including designing it, that would hold the movement perfectly where it's supposed to be, then you can do almost anything you want, as long as the movement isn't bigger than the inside of the case. But I don't have that. I have fudged up getting weird movements into other watches, but it's never been a good process. I've never had a good outcome. The closest I've come to it was discovering that a 6000 series SUA movement can be put into a 5126 Dynie case. But that's really about it.
Joseph Stewart 4440. Hey Spencer and Sabrina, my SKX 009 is due for a service. It is running very fast and I am worried about the crown and tube thread. My good mate Jack had the same issue with his SKX crown, and the watchmaker here in our town, who has a bit of a reputation as a great watchmaker, told him that his entire mid case needs to be changed. This shocked me, as I was sure that the SKX had a crown thread that could be removed from the case. Is that true? I am really hoping my SKX won't suffer the same fate, as that watch has been my go-to for nearly 10 years now.
The SKX crown tube is threaded. No, it's in the case forever. With those divers, Seiko seemed to, they did a basically sort of an electric weld. They'd apply a current to the case and the tube, and they would just put them together. A real quick, easy thing, but they do not come out. I have a video up, and it's people look at it a lot. It's basically it's about how to deal with a 6309 crown. Okay. But the how to deal with the threaded crown and getting it in and making sure it didn't get cross-threaded is still perfectly applicable to what you're doing. And it has a couple of tests and things that you can do. But the gist of it is you've got these two threaded sections and you don't want them cross-threaded. So one way to avoid that is you don't spin it down. I put them together so you have this is your case tube and this is your crown. I put them together and then I turn the crown backwards until I feel the two threads, the threads here and the threads here, go click. And then at that point, then I gently go forward. Try that. See if you can do that. You'll know the feeling. Spin it backwards a couple of times until you can really tell what that feeling is. But then if you start screwing that down after doing that and it starts fighting and binding with you, that means the threads might be a little messed up. But if you can get that beginning thread on correctly and you're sure it's correct, sometimes you can, by going like this, and turning it, you can straighten out those threads. It's kind of 6 of one, half dozen the other. It might be simplest simply to get a new crown. I'd need to see the threads on the case to know. So that's really about it. Those are things that I would try. First things first, do the backwards crown click thing and see how it does.
I have never thought about that idiom. Like, I know what it means, but where did it come from?
Which idiom is that?
The 6 and 1/2.
6 of one, half dozen of the other. What's a half dozen?
6.
So you've got, they're the same thing.
Oh, I get it.
Yeah, they're the same thing.
Well, I hope I helped somebody who is not a native English speaker. Hitter Andre. Hi, I remember you tried to fix yellow sun bleach 6139 indicator ring. Can't find your video about it. Have you found a way to make them yellow again?
No, I haven't. Well, no, that's not true.
I thought you were closer.
Well, no, I actually found a way to make the surface, the visible surface, perfect. It looked like it was, in terms of color, it looked like it was brand new. It was amazing because I had this idea. I'm like, well, okay, the top layer of the plastic has been receiving a bunch of UV and the color and the thing that have been broken down. So what if we basically were able to get the plastic underneath it hot enough and it would come back up through, the whole thing would reabsorb. And I was right. It does do it. The problem is the heat takes too long to get up to that point. So there's no way to just do the surface without touching the underneath material. So the color was perfect, but the rings melted. What you need is something that's like a flash heater. Something that, and they exist, something that can heat the surface of a ring up like just like this, but then really fast so you're not getting heat penetrating through the piece. Plastic doesn't really conduct heat that well. So if such a flash thing worked, it would work. I mean, the rings that I tried it on, literally the surfaces look, the color and the text and everything is perfect. It looks new, except for the fact that it's melted. So, we figure out, that's the thing, is I could never come up with a heat source that was simultaneously extremely fast and extremely hot. I mean, imagine a big, like a big, huge flash bulb that would be a certain burst.
Well, no, it wouldn't be like that, but how do like air fryers work? I've never used one with that. I'm assuming they get hot quick or whatever.
Yeah, but no, that wouldn't work because it heats the air around its convection. You know what you need is you need some kind of a heating strobe light that could hit it and then it goes off. So
I know what you're talking.
so it'd go boom, 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 boom. So at no point you're not pouring energy into the piece. You just keep repeatedly hitting the surface. Mm-hmm. And in fact, if that were possible, you could basically graph out how long it takes based on the color of the dial. Mm-hmm. Or you could customize it. You wouldn't necessarily have to take it all the way. I wonder how that would be done.
I don't know if such a thing exists.
Well, doesn't mean that it can't. But I mean, inventing a new machine for something like this, I mean, that seems silly. Because honestly, the reproductions that are being sold now on eBay, they're fine. They're not identical. I can see the differences if I really look, and there's really only two. The surface of the original is grooved. It's grooved like a record, and it's very even. You can see the line going around and around and around. On the reproduction, there are some lines there, but they fade in and fade out, and they kind of wiggle sometimes. But you'd have to look at it with real magnification to notice. The other piece is that the lume on the pip is wrong. But so if when I relume the pips on those, they look great. Honestly, they look great. And they look, honestly, for me, I would rather have the good aftermarket with me having relumed the pip in a watch, making it look correct, than have an original faded ring. I just don't like the way they look with a faded ring. They weren't designed to look that way, and I just don't like it. So I use those rings. I have used those rings for one of my watches. It's something that I've considered starting to offer as an option.
What?
Well, doing that for people. Hey, man, you got a faded ring. I've got these aftermarket ones here, and I can relume it. You'll get back to your original ring, but your watch will look like it did when it was new in terms of the color of the ring. Just offer it because I support them. I think they're well done. So I think they would enhance a watch with pretty minimal investment. I think it's worth something to think about. I really do.
Okay.
I'd rather have a watch look good than look original if original is not great.
Okay.
Okay.
Can I go on?
Yeah, always.
Buzz Sears 2588. This is the changing an Arnie battery video. Spencer, thank you for posting this Arnie battery change demo. I also have an H558 5009. I bought mine in 85, and I am the original owner. When it needed a new battery, I used to ship mine to Seiko's repair facility in New Jersey. The last time I sent mine in was 2017 or 2018. This was before COVID, and in 2017-18, it cost me upwards to $50 to ship and insure it, plus the service charge of $150. I have...
You know how much I charge for a battery change? $5.
Wow. I have replaced batteries in other watches I own. I have a Bergeron,
I think.
5007 knockoff, which costs 10 times less than the Swiss model, and it works great. On several of my dual analog digital watches, I noticed that they have an AC all clear feature that resets the movement after a battery change. Before I opened mine, I wanted to know if mine also has this AC reset procedure. Good to know that it doesn't. One other thing, since owning the watch 1985 to present and sending it to Seiko for a battery change, I don't know if when I change the battery, will I need to enter what year it is? I say this because I would suspect that the digital portion of the watch functions as a perpetual movement.
Okay, there's a lot to go through there. I might have to jump back, so I guess I'll try to remember if I miss one. I always date the batteries. When I put a battery in, I date it. But you can also look online with the projected battery life of this or that model. Arnie's are like 4 years, I think, something like that. But you'll know that it's running low because the display will start to flash when they run dead, or you pull the battery out. You can it'll hold the information in the CMOS for a little bit, 10 seconds, 15 seconds, something like that. But any longer than that, it loses power and it wipes its own brain, and you have to just go in and set it from start. Thankfully, it's not like, say, one of Seiko's perpetual calendar movements, which are an unbelievable pain to
I
set.
remember you complaining about that a lot.
And that was like 8 years ago. I own 2 of them. I don't even like looking at them. Oh, the reset procedure on that thing is so complicated. It's so complicated. Every time I think about it, I'm like, it's so complicated. But I mean, once you have it set up right, hey, it's cool.
Okay.
So what up? Oh wait, I only answered one of his things. Can I see that?
That big one.
$150. My God. I've had knockoff Bergeon stuff that works fine. It just depends on what piece you need. Yeah, you don't need to worry about clearing. Doesn't have this. Is battery change? No, actually, I did cover everything. Wow, nutty.
Seiko 7002 26-year-old watches versus brand new 4R36s from EC633. The old Seiko is better on all accounts. No plastic cogwheels for a starter.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. What drives me nuts about people, they did it a lot more in the old days. Everybody was like, oh, they dump on 7002s. Complaining it's all plastic. But they'd rave about the 007. I have been waging a decade-long plus battle to validate the 7002 as a fantastic watch. The movements are great. It's still a mystery, and I don't know why it is. Maybe it's confirmation bias, but I swear 7002s are, in some way, they're better and stronger. They always just have fantastic numbers. I'm talking about comparing them with a 7005 or a 7006 or a 7009 or 7019. They're just, they're all the same thing. In theory, the only difference between a 7002 and a 7005 is the date wheel, because the 7002 is pretty much the only Dynie product that I can think of. It's one of the few I can think of that had a crown at 4. Dynie's thing was to make it crown at 345, because 345 and 3, you can use the same part and they both work. But yeah, I would, but the thing about the 7002s is that the movements are 100% metal. They're jeweled. They're beautifully jeweled. If they're a utilitarian workhorse movement, they're built like all Seikos. They're built a little more with slightly larger tolerances, which gives them a durability. They're less likely to bind up. They'll just keep running. Inaccurately too, relatively accurately. Even a pretty beaten Seiko will run. But compared to I think the only real plastic in 7002 are the date dial and the movement ring. And those, you can swap those out. The movement ring is really cheap. And that's probably where they got that, we don't like 7002s. The cool thing, though, is that you can literally put the previous generation 6000 series movement ring with ring spring, like out of any 6106 dress watch or 6119 dress watch. It drops right in. And that's what you do that, and the rest will watch it. It's just magnificent. The biggest sort of downfall, if you even want to call it that, or area where people argue is the gray lume, the Prometheus 3. It doesn't look very good, and the dials are flat. So I don't know. That's one of those things where, because they made some that were down in like Southeast Asia that used the old style tritium puffy lume, and those things look great, and they actually will patina to brown. Those 7002s look especially nice. Or the JDM 21 jewel ones, they had a nice white flat lume that was screen printed, And they look really clean. They probably look the closest to what these watches look like originally. I have a video I did recently of a restoration of one. If you want to see what those look like, just check that out. I'm thirsty.
Okay, well, I will read while you take a drink. Seiko 7828749 from John Flynn 451. I have a Seiko 7A287049 since the early 80s.
Great model. One of those things lived for an entire year under the ocean.
It has traveled the world with me through the forces and my working life after. It remains keeping good time, but the buttons are jammed now, and there are no places left to service them anymore, which is a shame as the watch has served me well. It was so good to watch you restore a Seiko and to comment how good and reliable they were. Please keep the videos coming as they are interesting and a joy to your skill. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Those the 7828-7049s, or the Japanese domestic model was a 7040. They're one of my favorite 7A models. They're really cool. They're a beautiful design, and with the rotating ring and the solid black dial, you don't ever run into anybody saying saying anything like, oh, it looks like a speed timer. This one, the 7049, does not. And it has that beautiful, like bead blasted, media blasted satin finish, like one of my favorite Seiko finishes. And they're really quite sturdily built. Like I said, there's a video way back where.
How way back?
Oh gosh, it's a good number of years now, 5 years, 6 years, maybe. But the guy's a diving instructor, was a military dude, and he lost, he loaned his watch to one of his students. And it was the same watch, and he used it as his dive watch and everything. The student lost it. And so a year goes by, and oh no, I got it. I'm wrong. I'm sorry. He was wearing it himself, and the thing popped off. Fine, he lost his own watch. A year later, a student came up, and he's like, I found a watch. And it was this guy's watch, because it was the same training area in sort of this shallow ocean bay. And it was his watch, and it was still running.
Seriously?
Uh-huh.
That's wild.
The case was a little rusty, but oh yeah, in the movie, it was running.
That's crazy.
I think it got pretty decent time as well.
Oh.
So the reason that your buttons are sticking is because the seals are original, and the rubber's hardened up to the point that you can't do anything. A case rebuild will see that clear. They'll be silky and smooth and beautiful. As for taking to work, man, I love 7As. I love working on people's original watches. I don't know. I like showing those kind of watches off because I like promoting them. They scare a lot of people to try to work on. They're not that crazy. Well, okay, fine. They're complicated, but they're not psychotically complicated. They were a beautifully designed and made watch, 4 separate gear trains, 4 separate stepper motors with the gear trains. They designed it analog quartz where it would have split time and 1/10. It was an amazing watch, all metal movement, well, except for the sort of mid-case green spacer, but the functional movement all metal. 15 joules. You don't need a single joule in a quartz watch, not one, because
Wait, you don't need one, but they had them?
Yeah, they discovered later you can make a quartz movement with the pivots of the wheels and the wheels themselves literally plastic, because it's not stressed like a mechanical watch is running, because the mainspring is always pushing. There's always pressure running through all the trains, and so it's pushing the pivot sideways, and that's where you start to get wear. I don't think so. I think it was that kid with that weird.
No, he should be in school right now.
He's 18. But anyway, a quartz watch drives backwards. It drives basically through the seconds hand, and then you have all this leverage to turn the movement, but it's not stressed. It just goes click, and then everything relaxes. Click, everything relaxes. They don't need to be jouled at all. This thing has 15 joules. it's ridiculous. Unless it suffers a battery leak or the water gets in, nothing can kill it. At the most, of course, it will need service. They were specifically designed to be serviced, because you'll start getting things like the main chronograph register hand will start sticking in, or one of the other registers. But they're not that complicated. I wish people would take more of a stab at them, because I think it's a barrier to ownership of these fantastic watches, that no one really seems willing to service them. It's I do it, and there are ways to make it a little more smooth. I don't know. I just wish some people would try it. You can get the gold 7828s. They're not that expensive. And just take one apart and see how they're built. I mean, they're pretty complicated, I guess.
I guess, he says, of a chronograph.
Well, I mean, the thing, like the main bridge has you've got like seven pivots in the top to drop. 7 pivots, and you can barely see them. They're in this little spot. I have to use light coming through the jewel for the stepper motor to be able to see enough under there.
That sounds super easy.
Well, I mean, I've done it. I mean, how hard can it be? Nobody taught me. I just did it, and I made a lot of mistakes. I don't know. I love taking 7As, especially with original owners and stuff. I don't know. Okay, let's hit it.
Okay. New Year in watches, hands, computer, screen part. The user DB3CA5GK1G. You'll have a job finding a dial for that GS. They are as rare as hen's teeth. I've never heard that before.
What, rare as hen's teeth?
Yes.
You've never heard that?
No.
Is that another old saying that people don't say anymore?
I don't know.
It's an old saying.
I keep thinking about the water wagon.
Oh, that is pretty crazy, isn't it?
So we were watching Looney Tunes, and it was Sylvester and the dog, the big gray bulldog thing, and it was the kangaroo was in the
Baby
house.
kangaroo.
Yeah.
And Sylvester thought it was a mouse.
Right.
And he keeps getting kicked out of the house, and the dog's like, "You're a disgrace to cats. You'll get in there and you'll get that mouse."
And then the dog goes in, and Mommy Kangaroo's there, and he goes out and he says, "Come on, cat, we have to get back on the water wagon." And I was like, huh?
Get back on the water wagon.
I had to look it up. Get on the wagon, or he fell off the wagon.
Right, that's the thing. So, but I never knew that, hey, I'm on the wagon, I'm not drinking anymore. I never knew that it was the water wagon, as in you're drinking water instead of whiskey.
Right. Anyway,
so...
I didn't finish reading because I laughed. I've been looking for years for my day-date version, and now realize I'm going to have to buy a better example or get it redialed.
Yeah, I can't find anything. It's really super annoying. Because I'm thinking about it for two watches, because I also have a 4420 hand wind Grand Seiko gold cap, and the dial is just roasted. And I have this other one, this baby GS. It's a 6216 9000. It's the exact same watch as the GS that was made then. It just has basically a different dial and a different case back. If I could get one of those dials, even in rough condition, that would be fantastic. I do have some other 6200 dials that I could use. I've thought about it, basically making a custom dial for it, but the one I have that's available, where the text has come off of it, I don't remember, it was like that when it came, but the dial surface and the markers are perfect. So it would go right in. The only thing is that it's date at 3 and day at 6. But I like the look of it. The case is beautiful. I mean, I could consider if I could find like an emblem, Grand Seiko emblem, I could put it on that dial because all the text is gone, but that might be kind of hokey.
Hokey?
Indeed.
Okay. See, I'm multitasking. I'm listening to you, and I'm adding all that stuff to Ancestry at the same time.
Oh, cool.
Okay. Scarred Hands review. Spencer, what do you think of the Detroit Mint Watches Speedy Pogue?
Well, that's the one we're going to need to film a hands segment for because I want your input on it.
Me?
Yeah, because I'd never heard of them. For those who don't know, and I was one of them, this company, Detroit Watch Speedy, they're producing basically an inspired by watch that uses the quartz, mechanic quartz, so it clicks. It feels clicky. It feels like a machine. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't have that sort of quartz electronic feel. And they've kind of made it to. They've used most of the design cues from the 6139s, the Pogues, but they make the blue and they make the other one. It's different in some respects. Actually, a number of respects. But if you want, we can look at it.
Okay, sure.
Okay, we're going to look at that.
Hang on. Bonk. Okay. Sidewalk Astronomy Netherlands. That last watch, the black one, looks cool. It wasn't running. Nice, clean, non-bling face. Looks very functional. Would be nice with a black NATO. Nice, clean fonts too. No weird rings or mysterious functions nobody uses either. Can I see it? I don't know what he's talking about.
For those who don't know, this watch, I've only seen even online one more of these, maybe a couple. It's 7000. It's a 7009, so it's the previous generation, same as the 7002. Just the crown's in a different position, but it's unusual. One, it's really cool. I mean, that Arabic font look, it's slightly patinaed. It's got really nice hands. It's a beautiful watch. I've serviced it, and it definitely runs. And it ran when it came here. But what's funky about it, people, is the case material is something I've never seen in any other Seiko, period.
Oh, wait, is it that watch?
It is that watch.
Oh, okay. I thought it was, but I didn't. Okay, I know what watch it is.
The case code is ALH. It's aircraft aluminum. It's an aircraft sort of reformulated. I'm not sure if it's an alloy or it's been chemically changed, but it's aircraft aluminum. Why? Why did they make this out of aircraft aluminum?
Why do you think?
I don't know.
How does aircraft aluminum better than other metals?
You can't really magnetize it. I mean, you can, but it's not ferrous. So it won't be magnetic. That's something. What's interesting too is that and this happens pretty much with every single watch that Seiko had for the military, but wasn't for the military, is there's a civilian version of this watch with a different dial.
Really?
Uh-huh. And that happens a lot. I'm like, was this watch for something that required that no magnetism be there? Is it something because they couldn't risk a spark because of the metal? A conductivity thing? It's a cool watch. The biggest problem is the original bracelets are impossible to find. And I haven't found another strap option that doesn't look silly. But that, my friends, that is a cool watch. If you know anything more about these, please let me know. You can just write it down in the comments.
David Kopecki 999. Hi Spencer, just wondering, have you ever worked on Cal 5106 IMHO, one of the best non-GS or KS movements from Seiko from this era? What is your opinion on one?
5106 is like the top version of the 5126.
I don't know my random.
Well, you remember Seiko Fiber that I made in that big square case with the checkered rally bezel?
Your first mod?
Yeah,
okay.
My very first mod. Uh-huh. That was Diney. and that was one of their version, one of their versions of the 70-meter sport diver. Seiko had a ton of the 70-meter sport divers. Daini did too, and they're cool, and they're really, really cool. And they're kind of hard to.
You meant Sua, not Seiko.
Oh well, no, the 5126s are Daini.
Okay.
And versus Sua, I don't know.
You said Seiko instead of Sua. That's why I was confused.
Sorry about that.
It's okay. I was confused. That's all.
The 5126, you're right, is a great movement. Even the standard 5126 can be dialed in very tightly. They're a Swiss style movement, so they have that's what I call them, because they don't use the magic lever winding system. They use reverser wheels and its own bridge and that kind of stuff. Standard things. The only real difference that I can recall right now between the 5126 and the 5106 is jewel count, an increased jewel count. There might be something else added, but I can't remember what. Instant day-date change, or was that the 5200s? I think that was the 5200s. Yes, the 5200s have that instant day-date change. Remember that tank watch I rebuilt recently with the gold dial? The crazy square tank.
Oh, okay. Sorry, when you say tank watch, or anybody says it, I think of World War II.
I don't remember why they're called tank watches. Probably because they look... Well, I don't know. I'll figure it out. But it's... the 5200s, those are great. But the 5106s, as far as I can remember, they're just up-jeweled 5126s. They're great movements. Great movements. You can dial them in tight. They're slim. They have a low profile. They don't have any, deadly watch materials problems like the 5606s do, the 5600 family, with their date corrector plastic wheel. The material shrinks, and then the wheels split off, and the part's no good. Yes?
The Tank is a line of watches made by Cartier. It was created by Louis Cartier in 1917 and inspired by the new Renault tanks.
Oh, no, Renault.
Renault.
Just like the car company.
Which Cartier saw in use on the Western Front.
World War I?
The prototype watch was presented by Cartier to General John J. Pershing of the American Expeditionary Force. It was made in 1917.
Yeah, okay, and so it was inspired by, literally, the tank. Oh, okay, so Cartier gave him this name, and so now anything that has that square shape, they call it a tank watch, I guess.
You were talking. Sorry, I interrupted you.
I don't remember.
Something about the 5106.
No, I think I said everything I needed to say.
Sadie's texting me. Carlos Padgey. Excellent video, but I wish it could have been longer. I could watch stuff like this all day. Thanks, Spencer.
Which video was it?
We're still in the same one. New Year in watches. Hands computer screen part.
Oh, okay, that's fine. And now, could you read Carlos Paggi's thing to me again?
Excellent video, but I wish it could have been longer.
Oh, man, I think my videos are way too long.
I could watch stuff like this all day long. Thanks, Spencer.
I appreciate that, and I apologize, for all the time that you've lost. Listening to me hem and haw and tell Shaggy Dog stories. I guess I just have to be me, and that's the way that it is.
I'm searching for the first Pogue I had. Sven Huguenot. That one looks to be rather slanted. I read that as a 7.
Yeah, I'm not. Those are literally the only pictures I have of this watch. For those of you who don't know, I finally found some long lost photographs that showed the very first 6139 6000 of anything, but this was a 6005 gold dial, the very first one I ever bought. And then I sold it for stupid reasons, and I'm hoping someday to find it again. But I can't. The picture isn't clear, and I'm not real sure about the serial number. So you could well be right.
Hang on, Sadie's having issues. You can keep talking. Sorry, girl stuff.
Oh,
okay. Anyway, Insomnia Watch 3. You had an Insomnia watch recently?
No. Somebody commented on the old Insomnia watch.
Oh.
I did Insomnia Watch 3, and that, by the way, was that 62169,000.
Oh.
That was that watch. Then I built that. And that was the watch that when I was doing the service on that thing, I had a 1570 movement open right next to it, a Rolex 1570 movement for, I don't remember if it was your watch or for the 5512 I built. But anyway, I had them open right next to each other. And it is astonishing how much better a movement the 6216 is. It blows the Rolex away. And I mean that sincerely. In basically every single way, except for Rolex had the free sprung balance. Other than that, man, those 6000 series, the 6200 series, they only run at 18,000 BPH, but so does the Rolex. So they're slow, and you want to have that really fine high beat thing. Those 18,000, whatever the hell it is, the slowest beat rate, 18,000, extremely accurate. Yeah, you're getting less beats per second, minute, whatever, per second, less beats per second. You're getting fewer beats, so in theory that makes it, the average would be less close to the mean. But they have big balances, they're really stable, they don't run really high power, so you're not pumping a ton of power through the train, and they run beautifully, they're beautiful movements. And I will put them up against Rolex of the equivalent year all day long. They're fantastic. Even the straight up 6206s are the same way. It's criminal that they made so few sport watches with it. They're almost all dress watches. What are you gonna do?
I never even read the question.
Oh, you didn't?
No.
Oh.
From David Crandall 4958. It's very enjoyable to listen to you. You humanize the hobby. I would love to see these Antikythera mechanism videos you are talking about.
I put in the comments a link to my favorite it's Antikythera, but I mean, it's a weird word, and it's a Greek word, and I'm probably doing it wrong. Anyway, I put a link down underneath your comment to another YouTube channel called ClickSpring, and he is like this master clockmaker, and he's a young guy, master clockmaker, but he makes clocks literally from stock material. He doesn't have any parts, he makes everything himself. And his stuff is amazing, but he is recreating the Antikythera mechanism from scratch. And if you think I'm soothing, which I still don't know how that's possible, this guy is like, in a good way, he's so calm.
Wow.
And the video is it's beautifully done. And his voice is very calm, and it all makes sense, and you can see everything going on, and I really love it. It really spoke to me. It's really cool. So that, again, his channel is literally ClickSpring, one word.
Okay, last one. What's in the box? Is this a new one?
No. Well, that's the watch lot I got the other day.
Because I know that you had I remember the first What's in the Box and the Brad Pittism and
What's in the box?
And people wanting to report you for freaking no wait, that was in the other Brad Pitt one. The Brad Pitt watch, and people were like, we need to report him for copyright infringement. Other people were like, you can't do that. Sorry. From Francis Palmer 9737, I love these junk watch lots. It's like Christmas opening some presents, not knowing what you will get. Nice one, Spencer. Thank you for sharing the opening.
We've been really saving money and cutting down on all expenses that we can. And so even though it would be for the business, because of my nature, I can't do less. I have to do 100% or nothing. So I haven't been buying on eBay at all. So this is the first junk watch lot I've gotten in a couple of years, And so it was really exciting. Yeah, man, I love junk lots. You never know. Sometimes, I mean, you find all kinds of crazy stuff. I used to buy big lots of real junk back in the day when you used to be able to find this stuff. And it would be like watchmaker's lot and this stuff. It would be like a pile of watch crap with little plastic containers with stuff. And man, have I found some treasures in those. Wow. So it's lots of fun. Thank you for your contribution. I appreciate that.
Well, that's it.
Oh, well, I guess that's it.
That's it.
That's it. It is, oh, you got to leave in...
A few minutes.
Yeah, you've got some. And so, how about this? Let's just film wrist check and get you the hell out of here.
Oh, but I thought we already did wrist check.
Oh, we did do wrist check. Do you know why? Because turns out time, it's not that time is an illusion, but time is basically one of the things that we only experience here. Time as it goes in other planes of material existence go different ways, apparently. It's all this new stuff about thoughts, about the nature of reality and string theory. Did you know? This is really cool. I just read this. There's a legitimate scientific theory that apparently has a good amount of people signing on to it that the Big Bang, which was an explosion of material into a space that had nothing, is instead it's the inverse. It's the other side of a black hole, and that basically the Big Bang was the formation of the black hole when it finally got the material got so dense that it started collapsing into a singularity. And they're looking for ways to verify that, and they think that they're going to be able to. There's some other crazy stuff about that, but just an idea. I think it's neat. So maybe we're in a black hole. Maybe this is a completely different range of space, but the material came from a black hole.
I wasn't listening. You know I hate these things.
Well, I don't know why. I just think it's neat. All right, folks, that's it. We'll see and talk to you later, and please keep those questions coming. Mm-hmm. And we thank you for watching. Appreciate it. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
I don't know. That's really about it. She's been finding out all kinds of crazy stuff about my brand new family via the...
Well, no, I was looking for the drama with that.
So much drama.
With that entire thing. So, okay. If you've been following all this nonsense, this is what?
TLDR, my mother's father was not actually my mother's father. My mother's father was actually somebody, how you describe Mr. French.
Oh, he was handsome, and he looked like Tom Brady.
He was tall and handsome, and he was in, he ran the entire, town's, municipal department, but he was involved in everything.
Everything, especially in the local Stockbridge politics. But
and the Playhouse, but on committees and all kinds of stuff.
I'm like...
Okay, go.
Okay, so Grandpa George banged his Nana. She got knocked up with his mom, and his granddad, Fippin, took over and raised.
Because he was a really good guy.
And it's quite obvious that the entire town knew about it because they had your mother's grandmother.
Wait, I got it real quick. I've got a shorter explanation.
Okay.
Okay, so the thing is, from what we can tell, we think everybody knew about this. It wasn't some crazy secret, but my great-grandmother, maternal, who was a terrible person, and who was also involved in every single committee and planning thing and city stuff, so she and Grandpa George they knew each other for years. They were all in the same stuff.
I think you forgot to mention that Grandpa George was 30 years older than your Nana.
Grandpa George, my grandfather was born in 1884. My grandfather was born in 1884. So that's interesting. But yeah, so he was a lot older. And his wife had died in 34, his wife of 30-something odd years. And Nana's entire family was disintegrating because it turned out they'd lost all their money in the crash of 29, and they had just been kind of keeping it together, trying to keep up appearances. And then the oldest daughter of somebody who used to be quite rich but wasn't anymore started acting out, and she and George knew each other. They were in the plays and everything. I mean, they were together a lot. And I know my Nana. She's no pushover. Nana did what she wanted to do. So, that's the thing. I think maybe she liked George a whole lot. I think George liked her a whole lot. And I think that my great-grandmother, who was, by most accounts, if not all of them, a terrible person, he probably went to her and said, hey, this is what's going on. And she has known the guy forever and ever. And she was probably like, no, the scandal. Now, pick up your part.
Oh, okay. Well, anyway, so, so his great-grandmother, Bertha von Dunn, when Nana would come and visit with his mom and her brother, the notice in the paper was that Mrs. Henry O. Phippen Jr. is coming with 2 children.
Oh, tell them about the birth notice.
Yeah, there was no birth notice, but there certainly was one for the brother.
Yeah, no, there was no birth notice for my mother. But there was for her brother, who was 2 years younger. My mother was never mentioned in the paper.
Yeah, and you can't say, oh, well, maybe because it was a girl. She was the first grandchild.
She was the first grandchild. So here's the deal. That's a hell of a preamble. 2 columns in the newspapers, one on top of the other. So you got the one column, and it's in the society pages. And then below that, you got another column, right? The top column is my Nana's kid sister. My great aunt Nan. She had just it was a marriage announcement, and because she was, even though she didn't live in town at that point, she had grown up there and everybody knew her, and so but she was the last daughter. So there was the announcement, very nice, talking about what the how everything was going, and then right below it, oh, by the way, that column up above started with her name, blankety blank, married. No, she wasn't Woolcott. Nancy Clark.
No, Dunn.
Nancy Clark Dunn. Yeah, I know, she was a Dunn, you're right. In any case, sorry, this is all so confusing.
Not confusing to me.
So all this regular society marriage, wedding stuff. And right below it, and there was another column with huge black block letters that would be, no one could avoid reading. It would be impossible to not read it. So anybody in the family reading through that column about my Aunt Nan would read down, and then they would see 2 giant sentences that said, is married George French.
Well, anyway, so the thing that I was going to talk about was we think that his mom knew, and the reason why we think his mom found out is because Grammy Dunn,
who wasn't a very nice person,
probably told her
drunkenly.
Yes. So I don't know what's going on. Blah blah blah. Time passes. His mother gets knocked up, and
deliberately she baby traps my dad.
And she decides at their wedding,
it's time for her revenge.
Yes,
and believe me, her revenges. Oh, they would sometimes were decades in the making.
Yes. She invited her grandfather that left Bertha von Dunn, hadn't seen him
since 1934.
Since 1934. And
this is 1956 now.
In walks in Douglas Dunn with his daughter.
From his second wedding.
Yeah. And she said, everybody's always was like, why? You never met him or anything. And what did she say? Yeah,
my mom had never met this man. Literally, he was only a name. But Bertha von Dunn, my great-grandmother, she apparently, my father said, because he was obviously there, it being his marriage, he said, I could just see the hurt in her face. So we think Douglas Dunn was like, okay, hey, I've been managing your money. Now the old man's dead. Sorry, you got nothing. I'm out of here.
And he walks in.
into the marriage. Nobody knew that he was coming, I don't believe, or maybe only a few people did. And she did the whole thing, invited this man that she'd never met or spoken to literally as a middle finger to her grandmother for, in my opinion, my guess, for at some point spilling the beans. Mm-hmm. And also, because of Bertha Von Dunn, my mother grew up in the wrong family. I mean, but they were loving and wonderful people, but
yeah.
she wasn't with what should have been her original family. Of course, if that didn't happen, I wouldn't be here, but...
Your granddad did what he could.
Granddad was a great guy. He was a great guy. And he did everything that he could, and I honor him for it. But I think they all knew. I think everybody knew. How they managed to stifle it up to this generation was only blown because...
Science!
So, see, my mother was what is now called a malignant narcissist. The old days, she would have been called a psychopath. She doesn't directly have deaths on her hands, but I put Dad as a close candidate. Yeah. She certainly hastened his end deliberately. Any case, what was my point?
I don't know.
I was going somewhere with that. Oh, malignant narcissists. One of the things they do is they project. They're extremely fragile people, and any kind of weakness within themselves or something that they feel is bad, they will project that on someone else. It's like an attempt to kind of get the thing out of your body and put it somewhere else and be able to, say it wasn't me. My mother gaslit me for decades that there was a real question about who my father was. She did it for like almost my entire life. And now I've asked my older siblings about it, and they're like, what? What? What are you talking about? What? I really think Mom knew, and I think she was projecting. And I don't know, man.
I don't know.
I don't know either.
But you know what? If it wasn't for that whole nonsense, we never would know.
You know what? Nana had agency. Why didn't she just say, I don't give a damn, Mom, I'm marrying him?
I don't know.
I mean, other ladies have. Okay.